Greetings, Ventureroos!
Hi!
Welcome back to episode 27 of A Very Venture Vodcast. Today we're going to be talking about Season 5, Episode 8, called The Devil's Grip, aka the season finale!
So soon.
I know.
It's here.
It came so soon.
Spoiler alert, you guys. If you have not seen this episode yet, we will be talking about it at length. And it's probably best that you watch all of the episodes of the Venture Brothers because there's so much callback.
So much backstory.
Yeah. All the time.
Get in there. This episode was by Doc Hammer.
Yeah, because there was every feel.
All of the feels, everything under the sun.
He's trying to make you laugh and then cry at the end.
It worked.
So the title refers to, the title, it's a couple things. It could be many things. But there's one thing that is just a clear Google search will tell you that the Devil's Grip is another name for Bornholm disease or epidemic myalgia. It causes severe pain in the lower chest that feels like an attack. And it kind of makes it hard to breathe, and then it passes.
And it could just as easily be a reference to Rose saying later about rock music that the devil has a grip on you.
Right. And there's a couple times where music is referenced in the show, so that could just totally be it. Or it's like an attack in your chest.
A devil grippage.
Pain and things.
Ow.
So we were totally wrong about the disco ball falling on Doc as being like the throwaway comedic break. Apparently, it was for serious.
Yeah. It looks like Hatred woke up from being tranquilized by shore leave in Botseek's spot.
Yes.
And he realized that Doc was missing.
Yes.
So he did some recon, heard about the incident in Don Hell's, and that the Monarch had drug Dr. Venture away.
Right, his lifeless husk.
Yeah.
But then he did absolutely no recon at all.
None.
Before deciding to enact the probably most heartless plan I've ever heard of in the Venture Brothers, which is to drug the boys, separate them.
What if their dad, what if Rusty was actually dead and he just separated them? Why would you do that? It's their only family left.
And you're separating them a la Parent Trap or something and being like, enjoy your new dads. It's terrible.
Right, dumps them off at their godfather's houses.
I guess their respective godfather's houses.
Right. Which, I don't know any twins who have different godfathers.
Oh, and to boot, he tells them that their dad is probably dead, and that he's going to shoot himself and burn down the Venture compound, which I thought was funny, in that order. But
just kidding, because he says, oh, but I'm really just preparing you for the worst case scenario, that I'm not actually going to do that. And by the way, it's all in letter form?
Yeah.
And taped to their chest. So,
when they
Dio de los Dangerous style when Rusty wakes up missing a kidney, except for I'm pretty sure they still have their kidneys.
Don't worry. He signed it, Love, Uncle Vatred.
Aww.
Even the Monarch was sweeter to the boys in that, random episode where he's, trying to kidnap them. And he's waiting for his dad to come get him, but, Rusty's, totally obliv. And he kind of starts acting like he's going to adopt them or something. Even he wouldn't be that heartless.
So Dean wakes up in the desert near Tangier, the Moroccan city with a reputation for smuggling and spies.
His godfather, apparently, is Colonel Gentleman, who, of course, is a member of the original Team Venture.
OTV.
Let's just call it OTV from now on. The boys also visited Colonel Gentleman in Tangier in the episode Past Tense, where he was still living with his manservant/lover, Kiki. But apparently that doesn't work out so great.
It appears that's not going so well. We'll get back to that.
Yeah.
Hank wakes up in Boca Raton, the South Florida city who's famous for affluent retirees and Jews.
What's in the notes?
I am from South Florida. That is definitely what it's known for.
Okay.
His godfather is the Action Man, also a member of OTV. He was some kind of amped up super soldier.
Yeah. He was pretty much a violent maniac.
Yeah.
And he was the one, if you remember Rusty telling that horrifying story about when he's a little kid and he's asleep and he creeps in his room and holds the gun to his head and clicks it and hears the empty chamber going off in his head and he's like, not today, Rusty, not today, and creeps out.
So why is he the godfather?
Why?
Of Hank?
What? Because Rusty had to make that choice, no? Is that how this works?
Yeah, usually the parents, they decide.
Okay.
Unless the mom decided.
I don't know.
Yeah, so Dean's the clear winner here.
We're going to call it.
Yeah.
Hank is at Waning Acres, which is a retirement community whose motto is, where the adventure ends. What?
It's so sad. It seems like it's a retirement community for superheroes.
It doesn't say that.
It doesn't.
If you're looking around at what's going on here, it seems...
There is an inordinate amount of older people in costumes walking around.
Yes. There's a man with... more than usual. There's a man with an eye patch and a bionic arm. There's an old lady with, skeleton tattoos on her actual bones.
There's, the Grandma Storm from X-Men.
She looks a lot like that.
It has to be Storm.
And then there's the guy on a walker who's got, this owl-shaped or, cat-shaped hair. You don't really see his face very well.
Wheelchair man with the cape and the balloons.
Yeah, just wearing a cape.
They're all over the place. Anyway, Hank has arrived just in time for Paul Entman's funeral.
Yay! That'll get your mind off your dad's possible death.
A funeral! Joy and kisses.
Uh-huh.
He was also a member of the OTV.
Mm-hmm.
The first, as Action Man says, to die.
Although, wouldn't that be Jonas?
Yeah.
I thought we were clear that he was dead, or at least presumed dead, right?
Yeah? Although Action Man seems to think differently.
If you're part of a group, a band, and it's so-and-so and the such and suches, so-and-so's in the band, right?
Right.
Okay. If you recall, Paul Entman used to be known as Humongoloid, when he used to be a giant, which apparently was caused by a botched experiment, probably by the shrink ray gun and Jonas, but it's not really specified. Jonas Sr. tried to then fix it, but then accidentally Honey I Shrank the Kids it instead, ended up with a tiny little Entman who later got stuck in the mother mainframe for 30 years, which is how we know him.
Right. Then he was squashed by a rocking chair.
Yeah.
Which is such a sad way to go.
It was the saddest life ever.
Oh, and he was buried next to Blackie.
Yeah.
Who was Rodney's 15 years dead pet in a shoebox.
And he had his little helmet and his little megaphone tied to the box. It was so sad.
Worst life ever.
But on the plus side, Action Man's rhyming eulogy was all kinds of fun. My favorite part was the shrank down into a little mole line. And then this little bowl doing the little laps.
I liked the Action Man take it down a notch. Stop just thinking with your action crotch.
Yes, that was definitely poetic. Apparently, Entman was a really good influence, as we saw on Rodney. But doesn't he look really different in his humongoloid state than he does when he's little Thumbelina-sized Entman? I
heard, actually, that the humongoloid version of him was based on Andre the Giant.
Yeah, there's a likeness, I guess.
So maybe they chose Fievel as the tiny version.
Fievel? As in goes west?
Or an American Tail, depending on which one you prefer.
Sure.
Then we learn about the grossest Venture tradition.
The grossest.
Peeing on the remains of a fellow member, then making the youngest member fertilize the ground.
This is not a practice that is done, as far as I can tell, through my limited and traumatizing Googling. It seems completely unique to Team Venture.
Anyway, in Tangier, Dean is getting noms with Colonel Gentleman in a Moroccan restaurant. I'm sorry, Pop Pop.
Pop Pop, which will always be associated with Arrested Development for us, I think.
And it looks like some guy from Assassin's Creed is hanging out by the bar.
If not heavily inspired, or just happenstance. But yeah, there's that.
Same outfits.
We learned that Dean actually believes his dad is probably okay, which seems to be a shared sentiment with him and Hank, which is the only reason this isn't super cruel.
He's not adjusting so well.
No.
And considering how many places he's been in the world, we're a little surprised that he has such an issue with flatbread and couscous.
He's never heard of flatbread?
He uses it as a napkin. So clearly not.
You don't have to travel a lot to know about flatbread.
I mean, you only have to go to your grocer's freezer, and delightful pita bread is in a stack waiting for you to numb with hummus.
There is this orange military beret wearing thug. Also, did you know military berets is a whole Wikipedia entry?
About berets?
Military berets. Apparently that's enough of a thing. Like, all the colors mean different things. But he's just listed as thug in the credits, so I don't think it was, like, anything super special. They're like, just give him a little insignia with 2 swords, covering a star, and we'll call it a day. But he gets up in Colonel Gentleman's grill because I guess he was a former member of GTV, and the thug tells him that they were a joke even before the action man went to rehab.
It's on.
It's on.
Colonel Gentleman takes his arm for being sassy because his cool Anubis staff, which is an Egyptian god of the underworld, is a secret sword.
Secret sword. Later, Dean is given a few chores. He has to watch tapes of Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which was an ABC show that aired in '96 and starred Melissa Joan Hart, as if I have to explain this.
Everybody knows.
And make note of the time whenever he's talking to her black cat, Salem, who is it's like her talking familiar or whatnot. And he has to record or make note of whenever it's the real cat or the crappy animatronic puppet.
Which is hilarious because if you ever spent more than 5 minutes watching Sabrina the Teenage Witch, you noticed the crappy animatronic puppet version of Salem.
Yeah, so there's like...
It was so bad.
Whenever the cat's moving, it's like a fluid animal, like who's an actual cat running around. And then you see the animal...
They'll start talking.
He's like... Yeah, it's fantastic.
Then Dean gets to take down the dictation for Colonel Gentleman's 3rd installment of his autobiographical trilogy, I, Gentleman, which is named after iRobot, the 2004 Will Smith movie. If you recall, Gentleman's previous memoir was titled Gentlemen Prefer Gentlemen, which was a riff on Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, which was the 1953 movie starring Marilyn Monroe.
I think that was his first installment, and I don't know if we know what the second installment is called, but I can't wait to find out.
Yeah.
As suspected, Gary has been, meanwhile, camping on the Venture property this whole time since his whole Sphinx headquarters was destroyed. He's wearing like a survivalist outfit with his 2-ton boots on, and he's wielding a stick.
And roasting some kind of woodland animal.
Was he? I didn't even see that.
Hatred asks for Gary's help because he's a good man.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. So as suspected, I guess, Hatred doesn't really see Gary as a threat, except maybe to, like, his job,
Yeah, he seems insecure about that in general, so.
Very true.
So he wants to rescue Dr. Venture, which means he seems to think that there's a good chance that he's okay. It doesn't really seem like anybody believes that he's dead, which I guess in this world is totally acceptable.
There's another, "You're fat. I'm fat, look at you," exchange, mirroring their first encounter in the premiere.
21 says, "Yeah, I'm pudgy, and you're wearing a bulletproof vest made from an old couch, I presume." At the end, Gary cocks his stick for effect, which is why Gary will always be Gary, despite his bouts of badassery. It's super lovable.
It's also very lovable.
Yeah.
And it's why I think we really root for him, is that, like, underlying... yeah.
He makes the sound effects and everything. It's perfect.
And he's like, don't worry about it.
I got this.
He's just like, did you just cock that? And he's like, no, don't worry. Don't pay attention to me.
Sure did.
In the Monarch's lair, which, by the way, awesome, because I missed him, the Monarch is acting like a kid on Christmas morning while Dr. Mrs. finishes patching Rusty up.
She keeps shooting Malcolm's torture brainstorming... Painstorming?
How do you like that?
Suggestions down, like no animals or yes to ice knife. Although how that adds a twist to flaying is unclear, because we think it would be less painful.
Right?
Like it numbs while it cuts.
Right?
I am not sure about. Or melts, is it? Like it gets duller as it goes? Oh, that's probably more painful. Although eventually it would just be totally ineffective.
It would just be Is it a knife?
It would just be a melty nubbin of ice.
So it's a knife made of ice, not an iced knife.
Oh, maybe it's a knife made to cut ice?
There's torture via rat gnawing and flaying, which makes us think that the Monarch is still reading Game of Thrones, because that's heavily
really into it.
Big theme.
He's at least watching the series.
Yeah.
The Monarch starts jotting down some new ideas on his Monarch logoed legal pad with his Monarch pen. Nice little stationery set he has there.
Good branding.
Yeah. The list includes the following items.
So each thing, there is the Monarch's thoughts about that item. So do you want to do the list and I'll do thoughts, or?
Okay. Hot pokers, iron.
Eyes, groin, knees.
Bamboo under fingernails.
Chopsticks and kitchen drawer.
Wild dogs. Maybe a pack of ill-tempered dogs?
What do you think?
Drive to bad neighborhood and scream racial epithets. Sodium pentothal.
Make him admit he's a prick on camera.
Rack.
Fine Renfest costume from that stupid wedding. I guess they went to a Renaissance wedding.
Right. Cut off nose.
Check guild rule book.
Marathon man dentist drill.
Is it safe? What?
12 hours of deafening Faith Hill music.
Make sure he hates it first.
The bell.
Asian theme.
A pair of anguish.
Con, have to make pair of anguish.
Foot roasting.
Too slapstick?
Exposure.
Maybe too time consuming.
Buried alive.
Con, don't get to watch him torment.
Ice knife. Broken glass in ears?
Question mark?
We learn it's against guild regulations to torture someone who has an unattended injury.
It's very similar to when Sphinx nursed Monstroso, and he had to be brought back to health before Brock was going to be allowed to kill him.
Right.
That didn't get to happen, but Brock was like, can I kill him yet?
So Dr. Mrs. is nursing Rusty's wounds.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, he's alive.
Oh yeah, also there's that.
Turns out.
Just in case we were worried.
And still wearing the tie from his costume party clown getup.
Dr. Mrs. is adamant that Rusty play along with her husband's torture fest and give him a really, really good show, or else.
If you don't, I will straight up slit your throat.
I don't like that you looked at me when you started that.
Never underestimate a woman in love, Dr. Venture.
Okay.
Don't.
In Boca, Hank is wearing the Shallow Gravy shirt from the Mama's Boys Shirt Club episode.
Yep.
I was wondering, we saw that
Made
still.
a cameo.
We saw that still, and we were like, I don't think we've seen this yet, because I went back and watched the Shallow Gravy episode, and it wasn't in it. So It was apparently from a future episode from the future.
He's helping the action man get in good with the lady he fancies, named Rose Whalen, since we found out that she's Billy's mommy, by pretending to be hooked on rock and roll.
Hank plays the role perfectly.
He sure does.
Hey, old man, I was just playing my bass at a volume that is unreasonable. Can you give me some money so I can buy records with clear warning labels?
There's more awesome characters in the background. I'm pretty sure the man with the cape is supposed to be Superman.
Oh, yeah.
You get a view of his face, and he has, the Clark Kent hair.
Oh, yeah, he does.
It's cute.
Doc Hammer doing Rose's voice was, saying disparaging things about rock and roll was probably, one of our favorite pieces of voice acting, all season. Just because he was clearly having so much fun with it. And this is probably obvious to, well known. But Doc is very, very passionate about music personally.
He has a band?
Yes, called Weep.
You guys should check it out.
Check it out.
If you haven't heard his stuff. Mm-hmm. He's very self-disparaging about it, but they're actually very good.
Yeah, so. And I think not that this is a claim to fame, but he does, I think, writes the music for Shallow Gravy.
Yes.
He's the man behind
He produces the man behind the album. Hatred and 21 are infiltrating the cocoon. Mm-hmm. Gary finds a Calamity Conference t-shirt. Spoiler, it's the shirt of the week.
Spoiler
from the Shirt Club. It seems that it's a conference for supervillains to attend.
Right.
The Monarch brought it back for him. It said, my leader went to the Calamity Conference and only got his best henchman this lousy t-shirt.
Gary gets this really cute smile when he reads the best henchman part. And he's like, oh.
It's me.
He says that the Ventures wouldn't get him a t-shirt. And it's the first crack we see in his loyalty.
He hasn't done that yet.
Mm-mm.
We also learned that Hatred has to pay for his own food.
Do you think he even gets paid?
And Gary notes, finally, how similar they are. But if all Gary needs is a cause, is that why he wasn't fulfilled with the Monarchs? We're wondering, like, did he feel underutilized?
Right.
We know he felt underappreciated.
So will things actually be different, you know? Well, I guess we can go into that later. But will things actually be different now that we know the outcome of this episode?